Hey, you, hanging off the ledge. Do you want to learn to aim like this? Or this? Wait, how did that clip get in there? No, I mean like this. Well, climb on up and I'll show you. Wait, no! Dr. Pooplove here, and in this video, I have 10 tips to help you improve your aim and win more gunfights in Uncharted 4 Multiplayer. And if you want more Uncharted tips videos, then Blindfire that like button so we can spread the poop love around the world. But let's get into it. The first thing you're going to want to do is find the sensitivity settings that work best for you. Sensitivity is how fast or slow your aiming reticle moves. And rather than mimicking your favorite YouTuber's sensitivity, you should calibrate the settings to your own preference, because there are beasts out there who use any variety of sensitivity settings. In Uncharted, there's also some interesting other settings that can affect your sensitivity, such as aim acceleration, which changes how much the camera accelerates at high amounts of stick deflection, which I believe means that when your right thumbstick is further out towards the edge, that's when it may start accelerating, with 10 being a faster acceleration and 0 being no acceleration. There's also ramp power scale, which changes the aim speed to stick deflection curve. The higher the value, the less the camera moves at lower amounts of stick deflection. And this kind of operates on the other end when you have less movement with your right stick and how much your aim is adjusting at those smaller amounts of right thumbstick movement. So basically these are ways to kind of further manipulate the speed and sensitivity that you have, and it can be a lot to kind of figure out what is best for you. So what I recommend is going into a private match and practicing your aiming and calibrating and adjusting these various settings to fit something that works best for you. Start with sensitivity, which if it feels like it's moving too slow, bump that sensitivity up, or down if it's feeling too fast. With acceleration, it's hard to not recommend just keeping it at 0, as acceleration speed can kind of throw off your muscle memory and what you're expecting the aim to do. But in some cases, I have found it somewhat useful. Like with sniping, I tend to do a little bit better with some level of acceleration. So you really just have to kind of play with it. I would start with it off at 0 and then kind of bump it up if you feel like you need it to speed up at times. For ramp power scale, on the other hand, I would try to get a feel for it as well with whatever sensitivity you like, and I would kind of see what feels right. For me, I kind of need it bumped up a few notches because I do want there to be slight smaller movements when I am just slightly toggling the right thumbstick. And so, yeah, just get a feel for it in private matches and then take it to actual matches where you should take note at how it is working for you and adjust accordingly. But don't be one of those people who continues to adjust their settings over and over again. Once you find like a good spot, it's more important to then just develop a muscle memory that you are used to. At some point, these settings don't matter. It's just, are you able to get used to it and hone in your skills based on it? And then of course, there's another camera setting that is gonna help with my tip number 2. And that is that you need to learn to pre-aim. Pre-aim is setting your camera in the direction you want to shoot before you even aim down sights. The better you are at being able to do this pre-work, the less you will have to adjust your aim when already aimed down sights. Because when you aim in, it's at the exact center of your screen. And the camera sensitivity setting is where you can adjust your pre-aim sensitivity. I like to have it a little bit higher than my aiming sensitivity so that I can pre-aim a little bit faster and so that I can aim my blind fire a little bit faster. Developing your pre-aim is going to be key to having good aim and winning more gunfights. My next tip for you is to aim for the head as much as possible. Now, there's going to be plenty of situations where it's not really feasible to get a headshot. You just need to pump bullets and hit them anywhere. But aiming for the head as much as you can is good for two reasons. Of course, headshots do more damage, so you can win more gunfights by getting more headshots. And also the head is just a smaller target, so focusing on it allows you to hone in and develop better aim. And in order to try to get more headshots, you can use things like doorways and other reference objects to kind of understand where the head is likely to be, especially if someone is fighting around cover. That can kind of help you get a sense of where the head should be. But I also like to slightly tilt my pre-aim reticle upwards so that when I do scope in, I am already closer to the head. Tip number 4 is to just take the fucking shot. Too often, I see people spending too much time aiming, trying to get it perfect, and not firing until you're absolutely sure you're on target. But a wise man once said this, and it's true. You're better off just taking the shot, if for nothing else than to learn where you fucked up and how you can improve for next time. Do you really think I actually knew I was going to get the headshot in this scenario? No. While I may have been using some of the tips I talk about here to help my chances, the main reason I actually got this headshot is just because I took a shot. So take the shot. Tip number 5 is to find the right balance between blind fire and aiming down sights. I find that really 9 out of 10 times, you'll actually be better off aiming down sights even when the enemy is close. But there are certainly some times that blind fire is a better option, like if the gun you use is good at blind fire, like the P90 versus the Mazur, which isn't really good for blind fire, but if you want to do a trick shot, you can go for it. Or if the enemy is moving and dodging around you a lot, blind fire can be a good option to just get some shots in on them and chip damage them. Also, when you're rope swinging and another enemy is also rope swinging, blind fire is the way to go because pretty much all shots land. And of course, when you are behind cover and an enemy is approaching, blind fire is more accurate when in cover and will be a more successful approach than just exposing yourself. Of course, when trying to determine which type of firing mode to do, you can always switch mid-fight when one approach is not really working for you. Tip number 6 is to understand your weapon and understand its firing pattern and recoil and work to compensate for it. Every gun has some sort of recoil or fire pattern associated with it, and if you are able to learn how to control that and compensate against that, you can be much more accurate. For instance, the FAL, when firing normally has a large recoil up, but if I fire while slightly pulling down on the right thumbstick, I can stabilize that pattern and shoot more accurately. Doing this for your gun of choice can help you be much more deadly. Tip number 7 is to keep your guns reloaded as much as possible. I frequently see people reloading during a gunfight because they didn't take the time to do this in between. So, in between gunfights, just make sure that you're pressing triangle and keeping both your sidearm and your main arm reloaded. And of course, if you run out of ammo with one weapon during a gunfight, then don't forget to switch to that other weapon. Before I get to my next 3 tips, if you like Uncharted tips and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button so that I know to make more. But let's get into them. Tip number 8 is to use the drag shot in combination with aim assist to hit more shots. This game has something called aim assist, where if your reticle pans over an enemy, it slightly slows down or magnetizes over them. So knowing this, you can use this to your advantage in combination with the drag shot to hit more shots. Once scoped in, pan your reticle over an enemy, and once it starts slowing down, that's when you need to fire. This can be really hard to identify with the naked eye, so you really just kind of need to develop your muscle memory in order to be successful with this technique. Tip number 9 is to use perks that help you aim better. Hardened is a must-have as it reduces the pain wobble while being shot and allows you to keep more stable aim while someone else is shooting at you. Damage marker is helpful for tracking enemies that you have damaged and knowing exactly where they're going to be. Weapon Expert also makes you look like a freaking tryhard, but it's also very helpful in allowing you to aim at any time you please. And tip number 10 is to use gun modifiers to further help your aim. Recoil is helpful as it helps reduce recoil. Fleetfoot can help you become a harder target while firing and strafing, but clip capacity is usually my go-to for a lot of weapons, as it just gives me more chances to fire. And there you have it, 10 tips that can help you aim better and win more gunfights in Uncharted 4 multiplayer. So try some of these out and let me know in the comments how they go for you. And if you want to see what Uncharted is like in 2022, then you should check this video out. But otherwise, so long, Pooper Troopers.